to those who work at sea. What are some of the aspects of life at sea that people who live on land might not understand? Things can get much heavier quickly because the floor is moving. Machinery running within steel walls will destroy your hearing. Fire is very scary. When you get off the boat, you don't actually feel off the boat for sometimes a week. Vertigo is a B. Never got seasick ever. My first time of being on the boat for a month. Then getting off in Portugal I got landsick. It was a bummer. I always slept better at sea. I think the rolling of the ship has something to do with it. I always enjoyed the rough weather. Everyone seems to be in a better, cooperative mood due to the shared experience, like how neighbors all pull together in a big snowstorm. You can become very disoriented from being surrounded by nothing but water. You get to see so much of the world, but 70% of it is water. The constant movement. Plus, if you're standing watches, you never get enough steady sleep and are only half there after 2 or 3 days. You will find yourself dozing off on your feet. Also, when you eat, keep a hand on your plate. My friend told me that on some occasions he would keep cigarette lighted almost at all times. Not to smoke it but to burn his fingers and wake him up in case he fell asleep. Probably how beautiful the stars are and how frightening the sea gets during a storm. You can go out in the middle of the country and see a lot of stars, but in the open ocean you can't see all the stars. Getting fresh fruit and vegetables is very rare. Going months without sunlight screws with your head but your body still knows when it's time to go to bed. We make our own water and air but from time to time we'll come to the surface for some fresh air. At that point no one can sleep because the O2 levels just shot up. The ocean is bigger and deeper than you think. It's amazing how much contrast the water has from port to port. The blue water in the Pacific is unlike anything I've ever seen on TV or in magazines. It's beautiful and vast. You just have to see it from a deck of a submarine to grasp it. Kind of a different perspective here. I served in the US Navy for some time aboard an aircraft carrier. Fresh water is a precious resource, so showers are a bit different. You don't get in and stand under running water. It's essentially a hose with a button on the side of the nozzle. The steps for taking a shower are as follows. 1. Get wet. 2. Soap wash. 3. Rinse. You work 12 hours, then off 12 hours. It's a loud environment and the ship shakes shutters often during flight operations. Sometimes to get from point A to point B on the ship requires going up and down several ladders stairs. My dad is the captain of a 4-story tugboat in the Gulf of Mexico. They putter along at 2-6 knots from Brownsville to somewhere in Florida and anywhere in between, pushing up to, I think, 12 or 20 barges. He spends 2 weeks on the ship and 1 week off. He hates it. His deckhands play video games and watch cartoons in the galley. If anything, he probably enjoys yelling when that happens. He has to wake up at noon, sleep at 6 p.m, wake back up at midnight and back to sleep by 6 a.m. This is so a relief captain can take over half of the day. That order reverses on the second week. Deckhands cook the food. The only good food they can make is a Neiman Marcus cake, which is very rich. He's home now for a week. It'd get him on Reddit to tell his stories in his own words, but he refuses to get on here. He'd rather get his news from the television. Point is, he hates working on that ship, but that's all he knows how to do. Eat fast. Your food may or may not be inclined to relocate from your plate at any given moment. Anything you are not holding is subject to be thrown to the floor without prior notification. My family used to joke that they promised they were not going to take my food from me because of the way I kept an arm around my plate and a hand on my drinking glass at all times. I explained that it was not them I was worried about but that the table may decide to toss my plate before I am done with it. Royal Navy here. I love the fact that on the upper deck of a ship, looking out to the sea, you're seeing what sailors 100, 200, 500, 1000 years ago seen. The exact same. Now go to a Roman ruin and look at it, that's not what they saw. I love that, even though it's just waves and crap. I worked on a cruise ship for a year. There are many things that I could mention. Most likely you will have no windows in your room. This is quite disorienting. You feel movement all the time but can't see what is going on. Internet is spotty and expensive. The ship moves, sometimes a lot. There are seriously passengers who don't understand this tiny fact. Everything can be dangerous. I read the comment above: fire is the main enemy of a ship. Bravo, bravo, bravo. People all train for disasters when they work and live at sea. This training can be hit or miss, but every bigger ship has systems in place to save lives if something happens. But not just for fire. Trainings are held for bombs, evacuation, etc. That said, everything is beautiful. Life is basically full of beautiful sunsets and sunrises and amazing beaches and cultures in between. Your shipmates will have interesting and crazy lives that you will learn about intimately, whether you want it or not. Life at sea is obviously vastly different for someone sailing a small boat than for someone working as one of 800 crew member on a cruise ship, but I highly recommend living at sea if you have an opportunity. I loved it. The stress from being out there alone, working in harsh conditions with the same people over and over every day. Some people got into fights, some people were just so agitated they wanted to be left alone. But a lot of us just made jokes and tried to have fun. My favorite part was going out in the middle of the night and seeing all the stars. So many stars with no artificial lights to block them. And when we went to Alaska we saw the northern lights. It was amazing to see the lights reflected off the water. I had pictures but my camera was stolen. I was in the Navy and life at sea became very routine. We were at sea for almost 3 months straight during the deployment. Most of us, had standard working hours during the day. The guys in the engine room were 6 hours on 6 off. We stood watch, ate, watched movies and did whatever else we could to stay busy. Other than drills and actual emergencies, not much changes day to day. I always enjoyed smoking cigarettes at night. The smoke boxes, as we called them, were one of the only places we could be outside at night. Navy ships run dark at night with no outside lights or white lights above the main deck. The smell of the ocean, the sound of the ship moving through the water and the stars in the sky were something that I'll never forget. It was a different lifestyle that I really fell in love with. Yeah, parts of it sucked, but it sure beat sitting in a cubicle all day. I've done a couple of hitches on a traditional Arctic schooner. The concept of privacy is very different. In some cases the only personal space you have is a 6 foot by 3 feet bunk for sleeping in and storing all your stuff. So you get very close to the people around you, otherwise it's miserable. You also get used to there being no real free time. Your schedule is usually 6 hours on and 6 hours off, so you have very limited time to eat and sleep before your next watch. Also, freshwater is only for drinking, so you take a lot of deck baths despite how cold it is. But it's also beautiful out on the water. I've gotten to hear a whale song through the boards of my bunk, as well as above the water. I've seen humpback whales breaching only 50 feet away from me during bow watch. It is an experience that very little can match. I found it interesting that after a few days sea salt starts congealing on everything. Even though you can't see ocean spray hitting it, the rain is nice because it cleans it off and you can sit down and or hold railings without getting salt all over you for a few days. Time can get monotonous. You become like a dog, in that you look forward to lunch and dinner because that is about the most exciting part of the day. Your ratio of sunsets watched will skyrocket because after dinner, you don't have anything to do really but smoke cigs and shoot the crap while watching the sunset. They are pretty amazing though, better than their land counterparts. Also, the stars at night. I've seen the Milky Way so bright that it was reflecting off the ocean. It's worth noting that experiences of working at sea will differ greatly, depending on what kind of vessel you are on, your position, rank, where you operate and how long you spend away from home. I'd say it's the latter that most people will agree on. Being away from home. This will vary from 4 months to 10 months a year for people. I do approx 8 months away a year, 2-3 month contracts. Spending a large proportion of your time away from friends and family will change your life. You will lose touch with people, relationships will be tough, and there is going to be a majority chance that you will miss any wedding, funeral and holiday. But those are the terms and conditions. We all signed up for this knowing this, although maybe not understanding it fully. As a trade we do get benefits which one needs to decide themselves if they outweigh the negatives. Maybe not answering the question, but just my 2 cents. Guys from the third world make the majority of seafarers on UK flagged ships just so ship owners can cut costs. They are penny pinchers. 95% of all trade is done by sea. Most ships don't have internet, so it can be isolating. Most UK-based ships tend not to be registered in the UK for this reason. 90% of vessels I served on were registered in the Bahamas. If you're on a smallish boat, how difficult day-to-day tasks can get. Making a cup of coffee in the galley without a window, or a small porthole, in rough seas can be quite the challenge. Pouring anything with liquid in the galley is very difficult. It's so easy to get everything everywhere. Try getting dressed in cramped quarters, constantly being buffeted from one side to the other, or taking a crap or a pee. You'll have to watch the level in the toilet and flush before it runs over the edge onto you in a rogue wave. The intimacy on board. On most boats there's very little privacy. You live with your crew every waking moment. You have to be very comfortable with yourself and not be easily bothered. Basically, money. I come from 6 generations of seamen, all with the same goal in life. Catch fish, sell them, get drunk, and get laid. Maybe not work, but I've spent more time on the water than most. I spent a year on my sailboat sailing down from Vancouver to Mexico and then cruising in Mexico for 6 months. Most of it single-handed. It's not all sunshine and services. When you're out there and things start to suck, it's not like you can go home. In the 1800s and the early 1900s, seafarers were idolized because everyone knew someone close that went to sea for a living. There was more understanding of what the working conditions were like among the general population. Now, people that go to sea are in a huge minority. People don't know anymore what it's like out there at sea. You don't know the bone-chilling cold there is at night in the North Pacific before the continental shelf drops. Hint, it pushes cold water up from the bottom of the sea to the top. You don't know what it's like to be out there in a 12-foot sea with less than 6-second period. That freaking sucks. You don't know what it's like to have monster waves at night that you can't see until they're right on top of you. You don't know what it's like to be in a shipping lane at night in the fog without radar. Yes, I'm stupid. Real news doesn't matter, and you never hear about it anyway, because usually internet is spotty and reception is terrible. When you do hear about it, it just doesn't seem to carry as much importance as it does when you're entrenched in the news cycle on land. It seems really far away and happening to other people, not bearing on sea life. It's actually kind of nice to not have to worry about it or think about it for a while. Ship's cooks are awesome. Not only do they give you food, which makes anyone awesome, but when they buy food, they have to think really cleverly about how it's all going to be used, minimizing weight, waste, and overbuying. Space is at a premium on a boat. Example, one-eyed pirates for breakfast, toast with a hole cut out and an egg in the middle, croutons in the salad for dinner. Remember the bread holes from breakfast. Such cleverness. The shower water can be really hard and dry out your skin. Also, if you get hurt, family problems, toothache, or any other unplanned reason you need to get back to the beach, it can take hours to mobilize a chopper to get you. Then the travel time out could be hours and then back again. Everything is super small. I knew a deckhand who went home for a few weeks to visit his parents. His twin-size bed felt too big and spacious in comparison to his ship bunk, so he slept under the coffee table at home instead. I work on an oil rig and spend countless hours on boats. I also used to teach scuba and lived on a dive boat. I freaking love it. Plus the sea life is amazing. I see dolphins, turtles, barracudas, whale sharks and hammerheads almost daily. AMA. On a clear, moonless night, you can see more stars than you can imagine. You have been visited by the gentle doggo. Subscribe to Updoot and he will help you by lowering your stress. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day, you magnificent people.